Welcome to the Thoughtful Leader podcast. My name is Ben Brearley. I'm a leadership coach and the founder of Thoughtful Leader. The Thoughtful Leader podcast is all about short, sharp leadership advice because thoughtful leadership is good leadership. Welcome to the Thoughtful Leader podcast, episode 275. In this episode, I'm going to be covering the topic of bad employees. And if you've got one in your team, I'm going to cover some maybe not so obvious reasons why you might be seeing this badness in your particular situation. So let's get into this episode right now. Now, if you've got a bad employee working for you, you're not alone. I work with lots of leaders who are struggling with this particular issue. Now, the first thing that probably jumps into your mind is that this person is a pain. Now, this is natural, because a bad employee can cause more work and greater stress to you and the rest of your team as well. So in this episode, I'm going to take a look at some of the perhaps not so obvious reasons why your bad employee is acting up or struggling. Now first, let's get something out of the way. Now I believe that everybody has a degree of self-interest, and I don't really care who you are. You could be the best leader in the world. There is some self-interest in there somewhere. Now, whether it's because you want to achieve your career goals, earn a lot of money, support your family, or be of service to others, there is a layer of self-interest underneath it all. Now, why is this? Well, because if people weren't self-interested, they wouldn't survive. Even people who love helping others have self-interest. Well, how can that be? Well, it's because when they help others, they feel good about themselves. So the pursuit of helping others is how they find their own fulfillment. Now, I love helping leaders, but can I do it for free all the time? Well, no, because I have a vested interest in earning a stable income for my own survival. So what's the link between the bad employee and self-interest? Well, the reason I think it's important to acknowledge this is because it may be the source of our natural instinctive reactions. It's the reason we feel annoyed, frustrated, angry, or hurt when someone wrongs or inconveniences us. Now, I put this on the table in this episode so we can feel those emotions, know that we are simply feeling what a human feels, and then choose what to do about the situation rather than react instinctively or inappropriately. Now, a bad employee can make us feel like a bad leader, or we may feel like the bad employee is in fact a malicious and evil person. Now, these thoughts and feelings are quite natural, but they're not helpful. As soon as we start blaming the bad employee, we stop thinking about how we have contributed or can contribute to the situation. Now, when that happens, we stop looking to improve, and instead we start saying things like, well, it's not my fault they're useless, or I can't do anything about it. So now that we've got the initial reaction of, oh, they're stupid, lazy, and incompetent or nasty out of the way, it's time to look deeper at the potential problem. So let's first keep in mind that when you're dealing with a bad employee, all may not be what it seems. When we see bad behavior, for example, there are many reasons that could potentially be behind this. It's not as easy as tackling the behavior itself if you're going to fix it properly. We need to find out what's really going on. So when we see poor performance, the cause is not immediately clear either. We need to do some more work to understand the root cause in order to address it. Now, one of the things to look for is skill gaps. And one of the very simple reasons for your bad employee may be because they lack skills in a certain area. Now, lack of skill can obviously cause poor technical performance. After all, if somebody doesn't know how to do something, then they'll struggle to deliver and they might make mistakes. But sometimes, instead of seeing a performance issue, you'll actually see a behavior problem. And often a skill gap can show itself as avoidance. That is, the employee may avoid tasks they aren't very good at. Leaders often misinterpret this avoidance as a lack of motivation or drive, but actually it might be a lack of skill which the employee is trying to hide. A lack of skills can also make people feel insecure or worthless, and this can in turn lead to frustration, fear, or anger as they believe they'll be blamed for not being up to the task. The second thing to look for is a lack of motivation. Now, a lack of motivation can show itself as poor performance. Obviously, a team member who is unmotivated is not likely to put in as much effort as they could. But what's the cause of this lack of motivation? Now, many leaders jump to this conclusion. They say things like, they have no work ethic, they just want to do the bare minimum and go home. Well, let's wait a minute. That could be the problem, but it's not a guarantee. So let's look at some other common causes of slow motivation. So one could be lack of skill. It's our old friend, the skill gap. An employee may be hesitant to try hard if they believe they can never succeed. The second thing, it could be they're in a wrong role. Sometimes it's not about skills, but what people find interesting or engaging. What if your whole job involves spreadsheets when you're not a detail person, or talking to people all day when you'd rather be in a spreadsheet? It could be the role that's not the right fit. You could also see poor behavior from a lack of confidence. So a lack of confidence might have people avoiding tasks or situations which can be misinterpreted as not caring about the work. Or maybe it's limited challenge. People get bored when they aren't challenged. They stop trying. We think they're unmotivated, but could they simply be looking for a greater challenge? And lastly, you might think about poor conditions. It's hard to feel motivated when you're paid poorly or working in a chaotic or unsafe environment. These are the basics, but we need to get them right. And just before we continue with this episode, if you are interested in potentially working with me, you can book a free 30-minute coaching consultation. I'll put the link to that call on the show notes page, which is thoughtfulleader.com/275. Now, many thoughtful leaders are nervous about coaching or enlisting help from coaching because they feel like it makes them feel like a little bit of a failure. But I'm here to tell you that going it alone in leadership can be quite challenging, and there's no shame in getting support. So if you think coaching with me might be a good option for you, feel free to get in touch and book in that call. Once again, that'll be on the show notes page, thoughtfulleader.com/275. All right, let's get back into it. So another thing to look for with your bad employee is team dynamics. Is your team member withdrawing, showing signs of disengagement, or displaying unproductive emotions? Could it be that the issue lies within the relationships in the team rather than in the employee themselves? Some people just don't gel. Now, it could be an extrovert that needs to work closely with an introvert, or two people that simply have very different personal styles for other reasons. Or perhaps there is history between team members that make it hard for them to see eye to eye. Whatever the case, you might find that your bad employee's performance may be impacted by the people they are working with. Another thing to think about here is your leadership approach, because sometimes our own behavior as leaders can have a negative impact on the people we're supposed to be serving. Obvious examples including having too much oversight, such as micromanagement, or providing unclear direction, or failing to allocate interesting or challenging work. We might feel like we're being super supportive when some people simply need the freedom to operate without feeling like they're being watched. On the other end of the scale, we could be unavailable or not paying enough attention, which means our people might go off on the wrong track or spin their wheels because they aren't sure how to proceed. Now, it's always useful to think about the influence that you have on the situation when you're trying to help a bad employee. And the last factor I think you should potentially investigate are personal challenges. Now, as you've probably noticed, many of the causes behind poor behavior and performance are hidden from view. Most of the time, we only see the symptom, which is the poor performance itself. Personal challenges are often one of the hidden factors beneath the surface, and they can take many forms. From health challenges to financial stress, family issues, relationship challenges, drug and alcohol abuse, the list goes on and on. I've seen great people turn into poor performers overnight because they've had challenges arising outside of the workplace. So it's best to think about those sort of factors as well that could be influencing your employee. So it's best to keep an open mind for the best results. So I suggest two things to start with when you're trying to tackle a bad employee. The first one is keep an open mind, and the second one is have a conversation. Now, when you're dealing with poor behavior or performance, you'll probably believe you know what the issue is, and that's fine. It's natural because we like to solve problems. But you don't have all the answers, and you might not be correct. Imagine going in hard with accusations or blame, or suggesting the solution you've got in your head. But then you find out something you hadn't considered and you end up looking insensitive or aggressive. So don't be the fixer, be the listener. Start with a conversation rather than a performance management conversation. Default to a conversational approach and get curious because you open the opportunity for a positive resolution. And you never know whether your bad employee might just open up, and inside that bad employee could be a unicorn waiting to come out. So I'm interested in your comment on this one. Have you found any unexpected reasons for poor performance or behavior that sort of surprised you? Let me and all the thoughtful leaders know in the comments on the show notes page, thoughtfulleader.com/275. And of course, don't forget to get in touch about coaching if you're interested in that as well. Alrighty. And the last little thing I've got for you is please leave a positive review on your podcast app of choice. I know I keep saying it, but the reason I keep saying it is because it makes a huge difference spreading the word of Thoughtful Leader and getting a bit of a bigger audience out there to try to improve the quality of leadership around the world and throughout the galaxy. Yeah, maybe not the galaxy, but you never know. Okay. So thank you for listening. Keep up the thoughtful leadership, and I'll be back next time.